So this is a demo and instructional video for the RF remote. It contains a case with 6 buttons that is completely programmable, that will be able to send key codes, mouse clicks, anything you'd like to any program running on your computer. It contains this transmitter and a receiver with an antenna that plugs in via USB cable. I'm going to show a demo of using the remote with a music player called the MIT player, but again it can be fully programmable for any program that you'd like. Now I've programmed the buttons to have play, stop, pause, next, previous, etc. And now, standing far away from the computer, using the remote, I can press play, stop, going to the next dance, or the previous dance. I can hit pause, I can hit unpause, I can go to a tab. That goes to a tab that's pre-positioned somewhere within the middle of the song, which might be a place that I want to practice with our dancers. And so it's very handy, and it contains 6 different controls, and the macros can be set to have multiple key presses, multiple button clicks, anything that you program. And now I'm going to show you how to install the software and how to program the remote. First step for getting the RF remote working is to go to krubau.com, downloads, click the downloads, and then scroll down to RF remote, click here to show details, and then download the setup file. Next, go to your downloads folder and start the setup, then go through the setup routines. Place it where you want it. Then click Finish when you're done, and click OK. If you took the default, it'll be located in your Program Files x86 RF Remote folder, and the exe that you want to start is rfremote.exe, and you'll probably want to put a shortcut to this on your desktop. When you click this little panel starts up, and I'll show you how to work with that. So next we have to change one of the system settings so that when the receiver is plugged in, it will recognize the right port and with the right settings. So when we press the Windows key, we type in Device Manager, clicking on that. We'll see that there's no listing for ports or USBs, but when I plug in the receiver, that's the device with the antenna, into any of the USB ports, the system recognizes that there's something plugged into the USB. We open that up by clicking the left. Hold on a second. If when you plug in the device, you don't see ports, COM, etc., when you unplug and plug the receiver, you'll see something appear and disappear. If it says other devices or something like that, then your computer does not have the driver that's needed for the software. Some versions of Windows have it and some versions don't. Instead, you'll have to go to the krubau.com downloads section and download the drivers that Keith created for this device and follow the instructions there. Once the driver is successfully installed, then when you plug in the receiver, you'll see the word ports. The first step will be to download the drivers. So in your browser, type krubau.com, downloads, and then scroll down for the RF remote, one for Windows. Okay, click here to show hide the 4th entry for Windows. There you go. So that's the zip file. Put that in your RF remote home directory under program files. Okay, so that's the zip file. So move that zip file into the RF remote directory and then paste. So right click the zip file, extract all, and take out the end of that name that says, just leave everything up to RF remote, and then extract, the extract button on the bottom. Now you should have 3 directories. Okay, so the directories that you show there, i86 static and the AMD at the bottom, those contain various drivers for different environments. So the next step, asking Windows to find the driver for the USB, they're going to point to this current directory and say, find the drivers inside here, and it will find them. Settings panel that you had, device manager, that's it. So under other devices, so right-click the next one down, right-click the next one, update driver. Okay, browse my computer, and you're going to go to the directory that contained the RF remote software with its drivers now. RF remote. Okay, so just hit OK, because this is just for the point of the video. What's important is that you have include subfolders. So we make sure that that is clicked. Okay, so now say next. Have the USB plugged in, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's not showing under ports.
It says USB serial port under other devices.
So right-click that and choose Properties. Say click Update Driver. And we're going to do the same thing again. Browse. You're already at the right location. Hit Next. Has finished installing. Okay, close. There.
There's come.
Now it shows under ports. Beautiful. You open that up by clicking the left button and then choose the USB serial port and then choose Properties. Now on here, we want to change the port settings and make sure that this is set to 2400 bits per second. It'll probably be set to 9600 or something like that, so choose 2400. If we need to change the port number, click Advanced, and then choose a different port number, COM4, COM5, COM6, whichever is appropriate. Any one of those will be fine. Depends on the macro setting later on. Just remember which COM port you have actually selected. And that's all we need to do here. And then we close this down. Now we bring up the remote's software, either by going to your folder within the program files, or if you've made a shortcut, you can do it that way. So we click that, and then we get a panel that comes up. Now let's work with this. So first of all, click File, and then Settings. So you'll see port number that you've chosen before. If there's no port listed, then we'll choose the right one, and make sure that this is set to 2400 baud. The rest of this will show later on, but let's continue with making sure that these buttons do what we want them to. So first of all, right-click on the first one and say Edit. Now, since these are listed in alphabetic order, we're going to say the very first button is 1, and then we say it's going to play. And we're going to change the window that controls by clicking Browse, and the programs that are currently running are shown. So in our case, we're going to have that set the MIT player. If instead the program that you want to control is not currently running, you can manually edit the path associated with that. So we're going to change the key. We're going to change the action that it does by deleting the default one, and we click Add, and so we're going to have any of the keys that the macro would generate. In our case, it's going to be function key number 1, and that could be modified either by an Alt key or a Control or a Shift. In our case, it's just going to be the plain F1. And so that will take care of the very first one. Now the next one, we'll say Edit, so I right-click on Forward, and I'm change that to what it's going to say is Stop. And we don't want to have the right key be. We're going to change what that second key does, so we're going to say Add, and again this is one of the keys, so we're going to have that be function 2, and so on. Now, for instance, we could have this one, right-click on the third one. Instead of having the space key, we could have function 9, function 8, followed by, say, a mouse click at a specific location. I can move this around and say, okay, I want to have it click in this exact spot. And so that becomes the XY value that will be happening when I press the third. So this is key plus mouse, okay? And we can do that for each of the buttons. We define what we want them to do, buttons 1 through 6. Now I've gone ahead and defined the rest of these. Now the next step is to teach the remote software what the key generates, what little transmission code the key generates when it's pressed. These question marks indicate that we haven't told the software what the key transmission code is. So we click the first one, right click, and then click Learn. A little pop-up shows that we're ready to have the software listen to each of the buttons. So we push the first button and a hexadecimal code occurs, and we click OK, and it's now going to respond to that. If I then go to the next one, right click, click Learn, press the second button, and so forth for each of these buttons. Third button, fourth button. Again, I'm right clicking, clicking Learn, clicking next button, and then the final button. Now, if these hexadecimal codes don't show up, that means something's wrong with your setup. Either the transmitter is not transmitting on the right port, or the USB is attached to the wrong port number, and so just review the steps that we just followed. Now we have one more thing to show you. Now, we go back to the settings, and we now will explain what this does. We can say when any of the buttons are pressed, where should a message appear? And so we can have here top left. I've chosen a very large font size, and I've chosen the red. So we hit OK. You can change any of these values. So when I press the first button, you can see play occurs in the top left, and the second button shows stop, the third button shows key plus mouse, previous, all the text that I have. So these are completely determined by the macro and the name that is chosen at the top there. And again, here under settings, if you want the message that comes up to be, say, the middle left, and it wants to be a smaller font and a different color, you can do that. And so when I click the play button, it is a much smaller message that appears in the middle left. So you want to make sure that your software that you want to control is running first. Plug in the USB for the remote's receiver, and then start the remote software. After you've done the settings, when you exit, it'll say save macro changes, and you want to say yes. And that's it. Have fun using the RF remote.